At any given time, there are tons of new video games coming out, and some of them are not that exciting. But some are. That's what we care about, right? So let's talk about some. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 10 brand new games announced that excite us. Starting off with number 10, we're talking Project Tal. At least that's, I think, how you say Project Tal. It might be Project Tal. Whatever. Fact is, it's super impressive in the trailer. So this looks like a mashup that's elements of like your regular open world game, Dragon's Dogma, and Korean mythology. And I think it's probably going to be something unique. It could be something unique anyways. We're cheating a bit because this has been announced before. It was announced with the name of Tal or Tal, the Arcane Lands, which I have to assume that TAL stands for the Arcane Lands. But it's Project Tal now. Tal, whatever. I don't know. Honestly, they should call it the Arcane Lands. That's actually a pretty good name. So, like, hopefully they reconsider that. Like, I mean, very few games are released with the name of Project something. I think the Arcane Lands works. Ignore the announcement confusion, ignore the name confusion. Somebody's got to say it eventually, right? Somebody in charge of making it is going to say the word in public eventually, so that's fine. But it's a really technically impressive looking action RPG that seems to emphasize your allies more than most games in this genre. Usually your allies are just sort of around, maybe doing a little bit, but not really actively engaged in the battle as you are. This game seems to be really trying to go, we don't want to do it that way. Bucking the trend quite a bit, with allies that are powerful fighters in their own right and seem to dramatically change the flow of battle. It's the NPC allies and the climbing on monster stuff that makes me think most of Dragon's Dogma, but there's plenty going on in this trailer that suggests there's probably a lot more to it. It's expansive, fantastical looking. It all stands out compared to your typical open world RPG. It's not due until sometime in 2027, so it's a long way off, but the debut trailer makes it look like this is going to be a game to look out for. Also, something we'd like you to look out for is that subscribe button. Like, when you see it somewhere, maybe click it. Surprisingly few people who are watching this right now are subscribed, and it helps us out a ton when you are subscribed. So please do us a big favor, click that button. We appreciate it a great deal. We hope it brings you some stuff you want to see. So without any further ado, thanks again for clicking it, and let's move on. At number 9 is Valor Mortis. The guys behind the Ghost Runner games are taking a big, meaty Monster Arm style swing at this game, which looks significantly more ambitious than their previous work. This is a full-on Souls-like with a unique twist of being entirely first-person. Not normal. I mean, there's been a few games that have incorporated Souls-like elements into first-person. Kingsfield is kind of the progenitor of the Souls games, and it was first-person. But, I mean, it's not normal, even though you could probably see this as a natural shift in perspective, something that would work. I think what makes this one particularly interesting is how it breaks down the usual genre conventions by using actual guns and elements of aiming. You've got the expected melee weapons and whatnot, but you can also use a pistol, a rifle, and magic powers to attack enemies from a distance. You can shoot projectiles out of the sky, follow up deflex with a pistol counterattack. It's something that doesn't sound like much of an innovation, but from the, look at the trailer. It makes this game look like it's doing something pretty new and fresh. The Napoleonic setting is also pretty intriguing. There's, to be fair, more of that showing up here and there with games like Steel Rising or Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. But even with other games playing in that vague space, this one stands out, mostly because of the quality of the trailer. At number 8 is Darkwood 2. A little unexpected. The original Darkwood was one of the earliest, most haunting survival horror games we've ever played, but I never expected to see a sequel, especially not one developed by Ice Pick Lodge, the guys behind the Pathologic series. The switch in developers from Acid Wizard Studio, who made the original Darkwood, to Ice Pick Lodge, it's a little concerning, but then again, it's kind of impossible to get the original guys back because they shut down back in 2023, so this is kind of how we're going to get a sequel. And if anyone's going to do it, I don't see how the Pathologic guys aren't one of the best bets out there. Darkwood 2 looks like a full-on continuation of the first game. Same monochromatic color palette, top-down view. Setting seems a little more fleshed out, though. Where the original game was kind of vague about just about everything, the description for Darkwood 2 gives some concrete details. The setting is in the Aral Sea, where the water has dried up and been replaced with a corrupt and spreading forest, the Darkwood. It's a standalone game unrelated to the first, but it seems to have the same combination of survival exploration and bizarre encounters that made the original memorable. memorable. Hopefully it's going to live up to the legacy of the original when it releases. It is kind of starting over. Like, new developer means they're basically developing a new game that is meant to be the next of that game. So, I mean, we don't know if it's going to be as good as the original. Hopefully it is. Pathologic's a very interesting game, but the announcement has no release date, so no idea when we're going to see this one. At number 7, The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, with Mass Effect 4 either a long way off or never happening, depending on how pessimistic you are on BioWare's future. Somebody's got to fill up the space opera-sized hole in the gaming industry. Took a while, but it looks like the first major contender to step up and really go for it with a proper Mass Effect spiritual successor is the guys behind the Pathfinder games of all people. Hugely ambitious move for the developers, though. They've made games that they've looked good for what they are, but they're not operating on AAA RPG level. But everything you'd expect from a new Mass Effect is here. It's a cover-based third-person shooter where you bring along two allies who have their own abilities and assist you in combat. There's choices to make, relationships to foster, and planets to explore, all set in a sci-fi universe called The Expanse, so expect a cameo or two from the TV show. Even if you don't care about the source material, which, not gonna lie, I just straight up don't, it's still one to watch out for. Owlcat is known for mechanically complex games that contain actual choices and consequences that can dramatically alter your playthrough. Hopefully some of that complexity is retained in Osiris Reborn, while also making it a little more accessible and a little less janky. The potential for a new Mass Effect without all the baggage of the third game, Andromeda as well, I guess. A fresh slate for the type of game I just wish we had more of. At number 6, it's Black Myth Zhong. Now, very good chance I'm mispronouncing it, but it's fine. This was revealed back in August. It's Game Science's next game. It's kind of different from Black Myth Wukong. Yeah, Wukong swung for the fences, but at its core, it's still pretty much a traditional action game with some Souls-like elements. Zhong looks very different. It has... you're literally a giant. As per their announcement, it will be an action RPG in the vein of the first Black Myth, but apparently even the developers don't know exactly how this new protagonist is going to play. The trailer does basically nothing to tell us what to expect, other than revealing that the protagonist is very large and implying there may be some form of monster control. If that's the case, it's easy to imagine a game that plays super different from the first while still being an action RPG, but right now it's impossible to say exactly what the new Black Myth is going to be. Still, exciting to see it, and I, for one, am glad the developers are attempting to at least, try something new, instead of just coasting on the success that they had with their first game, which, by the way, again, inexperienced developer, comes out of nowhere with something crazy, pretty badass. And number 5 is 007 First Light, another entry that's a slight cheat. We've known about it for quite a while, but it wasn't properly revealed until pretty recently. From what we've seen, the game appears to be in the vein of an EA James Bond game. Driving, stealth, shooting, etc. Kinda looks a little reminiscent of 2003's Everything or Nothing, but it looks really promising. It's everything you could want from a James Bond game. Classic roller coaster ride story-looking thing. It's not straightforwardly a Hitman-style game, but it's also not a Hitman-style game. Depending on the stage, it seems like there's going to be at least some social stealth. I think they're probably playing a few cards close to the chest, because I don't know how you could not want to incorporate a lot of Hitman stuff into a James Bond game. Even though James Bond is traditionally known for having a lot of action too, the Hitman games are about as close to like what you would really expect a spy simulator to be. But yeah, it's refreshing to get a nice old-fashioned, highly polished single-player story mode looking game. Almost feels retro at this point. We need more set-piece heavy action games. And number 4 is Forza Horizon 6. 2025 went Japan crazy, and that trend appears to be continuing with the latest entry of Forza Horizon. It's set in, no prize for guessing, the Land of the Rising Sun, announced late September. Not much has been truly revealed about the game other than its setting and some cutting-edge visuals. We do know they intend to bring the game over to the PlayStation 5 as well as the Xbox and PC. They will be timed exclusivity though, so there's that. From the announcement, we know the location will have plenty of variety in locals, from rural villages to winding country highways to dense city environments in Tokyo, which means probably going to be the most varied and ambitious open world in the series' history. The Forza Horizon games have some larger population centers in them, but they've never really done something like Tokyo. Obviously, it's only going to be a small chunk of that massive city, but even going there at all is exciting. Seasons are going to return in this entry too, so that's probably going to affect core experience even more this time around. They're not reinventing the wheel with Forza Horizon 6 from the sounds of things, but it doesn't really... I mean, they don't need to. And number 3 is Blood Message. Announced June 19th, this one's a highly polished single-player adventure game. It's another ancient China-inspired epic, but what makes this unique is that rather going all in on fantasy, seems to stick closer to reality. There's no giant monsters here, just a messenger and his son trying to reach their destination while navigating a war-torn world during the fall of the historical Tang Dynasty. Kinda looks like Last of Us in ancient China. I mean, not necessarily with zombies, per se. Zombies are not necessarily the most dangerous thing in Last of Us, though, so you kind of get why I'm bringing that up. The comparisons don't come out of nowhere. It's a full-on cinematic action-adventure game with what looks like a linear story, so nice. I'm happy because we're just not getting enough of these high-quality, story-focused games like this anymore. It's nice to see them getting somewhat of a revival with all these recent announcements. And number 2 is Hell Let Loose Vietnam, any follow-up to the underrated World War II multiplayer shooter Hell Let Loose. It's exciting, but I didn't expect them to go full Battlefield, make a Vietnam game as a follow-up. Yeah, so this game seems to be retaining everything that made the original unique, stepping up the technology significantly with the same 50-on-50 battles that are highly tactical, deadly gameplay, such an original, fascinating, and frustrating experience. The original game was practically a horror game with how tense it could be, but the new Vietnam setting is only going to ramp that up. The dense jungle hit-and-run tactics employed by the Viet Cong are going to be probably crazy. There's really an opportunity here for them to make the gameplay between the factions even more asynchronous and unique, too. That could add a lot of interesting new mechanics to the RTS layer of the game. There's so much they could do with this idea, but I'm happy just to see Hell Let Loose get a sequel. It's not just something I expected to see, you know? Let alone going the extra mile and switching up the setting and adding what is potentially a lot of new stuff. There's no release date specifically, but I'd guess you're going to see it on all major consoles and PC platforms, excluding the Switch 2. And finally, at number 1, it's Entropy. The makers of the aggressively idiosyncratic Dread Delusion are back with an even weirder step into the twisted imagination. First game was a Morrowind-inspired first-person RPG, and this game, I kid you not, is a traditional turn-based RPG. I mean, not like Baldur's Gate, but like old-school Final Fantasy. World map, towns to explore, 6 party members to swap between, as old-school RPG as you can get, but with a weird retro 3D aesthetic inspired probably like Morrowind rather than, you know, Final Fantasy. They did some impressive work with Dread Delusion, and I'm excited to see what they've got cooking with Entropy. I do have some bonuses for you. Firstly, Warhammer 40k Dawn of War 4, long-dormant RTS franchise finally getting a new chance on life with King Games, the guys who did Iron Harvest RTS. Kind of a flawed game, but I mean, and I'd kind of be more concerned about this game's prospects, but the footage they've shown and everything else the devs have said, it makes it seem on point. They've said their guiding light is the original Dawn of War with 4 playable factions, each of their own campaign, tons of single-player game modes to screw around in, etc. They understand what RTS players want for the series, and they're leaning into it. Could end up being a mess, not saying it can't, but I'm cautiously optimistic here. Warhammer 40k, this might be the game to look out for regarding that in 2026. Next is Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Tempting to dismiss yet another Lego Batman game, which up to this point has been pretty much all the same. This one looks pretty different, though, and worth getting excited because it seems like the true successor to the Arkham series. Look at the trailer. That is an Arkham-style, there's the world gliding, the Predator cell segments, the Arkham-style combat. Doesn't appear to just be another Lego game. I'm not expecting the depth of the Arkham games. It's obviously probably going to be kid-friendly to be a little more easy and accessible, you know? But it's still pretty wild to see all this stuff in a Lego game. They even show Batman blowing a cracked wall with explosive gel, which is like basically, hey, this is like Arkham. They know what they're doing. Tapping into a rich well of Arkham and nostalgia, and it's working. Next is Parasite Mutant, a retro revival I didn't think they'd see. A Parasite Eve-like, liberally borrowing from the unique combat system of what is a classic PS1 Square RPG. Got the mix of survival horror and traditional RPG you'd want to see, and it just looks good. I do respect them for not just defaulting to the PS1 style guide here and going for a little more fidelity. Gives it a separate identity from its inspiration. Don't know what the final product's going to be like, but the trailer shows promise. And finally, Hyperfunk. Team Reptile's follow-up to Bomb Rush Cyberpunk looks like a pretty exciting evolution for the series. The more multiplayer looking announcement, it does leave me a little concerned what the final game is going to look like, but the visuals and music alone make me excited for whatever Hyperfunk is going to be. Pretty much appears to be still a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, but this time a lot more depth to the trick mechanics, as well as having random online players appear in what appears to be much larger city zones compared to Cyberpunk. Dynamic street battles are in, multiplayer matches are in, free roaming, collectible gathering. But what else is going on here? Do we still have story mode, or is it more free-form multiplayer? I don't know. It does look incredible. They nailed the Dreamcast aesthetic in the first game, and they're taking it a step beyond here. I love the way the city looks, and I cannot wait to find out what it's about. So, yeah, that's where we're going with this. That's all we've got for you today, though. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.